taking the time to be on our call. I just want to welcome you and let you know that it's a huge, huge honor for me to be here with you. Just so much fun. I've missed everyone. I haven't been as out there as much, but just know that I'm working behind the scenes and I'm always willing to help whenever I can. I want to start by telling you all that I have been studying natural health for 45 years. It was necessary. I was not doing well physically. And so I ended up having to figure it out myself. I went to an herbalist in Boulder, Colorado named Hannah Kroger. Some of you may have been familiar with her. And she helped get me well. I was an engineer and studying engineering at the time. No, I was working as an engineer at the time. And she helped me get well and I became very curious. So that was 45 years ago. And about 27 years ago, in 1994, I joined Young Living. And at about the same time, I found a book written by Dr. Mangalesh called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. So I started studying the water thing about 27 years ago, and it's been fascinating to me ever since. I just find it to be fascinating for a lot of different reasons. And today I have to tell you that of everything I know now in these 45 years, water and salt, we're going to talk about that, and essential oils are the three most important things I know about. So I don't know, Chris, one day we may have to have a seminar called Water, Salt, and Essential Oils, but tonight we're going to talk about water, and I'll just briefly mention the other two. So dehydration, this is the challenge. Dehydration may actually contribute to a lot of health issues. And that's what I've seen over the years. So by learning why we need to drink more water and then doing it may help prevent a lot of conditions from worsening or getting developed in the body. And I think, so that's why I want to share this with you. About 60% of the human body is water, and the brain and heart are composed of about 73% water, and the lungs are about 83% water. So if you can imagine when you breathe out on a cold day and you can see your breath, we're literally giving off water particles 24/7 every time we breathe. And so it's kind of important that we have good quality water in our bodies and enough quantity so that we can breathe and do all the things that water is needed for in our body. We have two liquid systems in the human body. One, of course, is blood, and that is pumped by the heart. And the heart is electrical, requires electricity. That's why if someone's heart stops, they charge it because they can get that electricity going again. And if you think about conductors of electricity, water and minerals would probably be really important because those would be good conductors of electricity. And so that may be why our heart is 73% water, so it has more electrical conductivity in it. Now, the blood is pumped by the heart, of course, and then the water system is interesting. It's actually pumped by the lymphatic system, and it's pumped by walking. For those of you who had the opportunity to meet Gary Young, he used to talk to us about working people's feet who were bedridden in order to pump their lymphatic system, which is the water system of the body. But one thing I learned a few years ago that I find absolutely fascinating about the water system of the body is that it has the same chemical composition as ocean water. Yeah. So what does that mean exactly? I don't know. But when a tear falls in your mouth, it's salty. If your nose is running and it goes in your mouth, you know it's salty. So the water system of the body actually is like ocean water. And I just learned recently that 4 billion years ago, the Earth was covered in ocean. It was an ocean planet. And that slowly but surely land began to form out of that ocean and life. So I think we have a lot to be thankful for ocean water. Um, let's see. So not only do we need good quality water in our bodies, but we need plenty of it. And we also need a good quality ocean salt. And again, we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. So how much water do we need to drink in a day? That's always a good question. And the going number that I think is probably pretty accurate is half of your weight in ounces of water every day. So a 150-pound person needs to drink about 75 ounces of water. And that seems like a lot, but when you think of your body being made up of water, we need to keep, and water does so many different functions in the body. It helps clean out waste material out of cells, for example. Who knew? So it does so many different things that we really need to have sufficient water in the in our bodies. And so we need about half of our weight in ounces of water. So now I want to talk about what happens when we drink enough water versus what happens when we don't. So let's take a normal person. They've just eaten a meal and it's digesting, it's in the stomach, and the body shoots acids in to break that food down. And once it's sufficiently broken down and the body determines that to be true, it's ready to go to the next stage, which is the small intestine. However, that tissue in the small intestine can't handle those acids very well. So the body, in its great wisdom, shoots a sodium bicarbonate solution underneath the stomach, the valve between the stomach and the small intestine, triggers it to open, the food goes down, and it's slightly neutralized as it goes down. And now it's in the small intestine, and there are these little villi or hair-like structures that begin to pull tiny particles of food out and take it to the bloodstream, where it's then circulated throughout the body and delivered to where it's needed. Now that blood is also filtered through the liver and the kidney, and then any waste material that they pick up will either go to the colon, both of them send waste material to the colon, or in the case of the kidney, it can also get rid of its waste material through the bladder. So now it's in the small intestine and the villi, pulling it out, sending it up, it's circulating, and now it's moving on down. The small intestine is about 20 feet long. And eventually the food that's in the small intestine will reach the large intestine, and it will go into the large intestine. And there are friendly bacteria there that are waiting to break it down even further. And then another villi or villa structure waiting to pull those nutrients out in tiny particles, send it around in the bloodstream, filtered by the liver and the kidney, sent to all the parts of the body. The nutrients are delivered as needed. So then any waste material that's in the colon gets flushed out as feces, and then through the bladder, it would go out through the urine. But that's kind of how we work, okay? But now let's look at someone who doesn't like water. And I didn't when I was younger, and I think that contributed to why I was not as healthy in my 20s and why I had to find help. I didn't drink water. I like to drink soda. I drank tea, milk, anything but water. I like juice, but let's see. Okay. So this person doesn't like water. And so they've eaten their meal, and the food is in the stomach and the acids are shot in and it's breaking it down, right? And now it's time for the food to go into the small intestine. But this person is dehydrated. And because of that, there's not sufficient water for the pancreas to create that sodium bicarbonate solution and shoot it underneath the valve so the stomach will up, so that the valve will open and the food will go from the stomach into the small intestine. So the valve stays shut, and it stays shut, and it stays shut, because there just isn't any water to create that solution. So now if the food can't go down, it starts trying to go up. And people get heartburn and reflux and indigestion. They may feel like they have an acidic stomach and they can't really get it to calm down. Um, and chronically, over time, if you can imagine somebody doing this to their body every single day for years, the esophagus would be troubled and the stomach lining probably would become ulcerated. I mean, this would be a pretty serious health issue. But right now, this body's getting pretty freaked out because it's hot in there. It's not able to leave and go to the small intestine. So the body looks for water. It can sometimes find a little bit of extra water in the colon. So it'll go grab that, send it to the pancreas, creates the sodium bicarbonate solution, shoots it underneath the valve opens, the food goes down, but that solution's too weak and those acids are too strong. So as it goes into the small intestine, it actually begins to damage the tissue in the small intestine as well. And those little hair-like structures, if this happened to them chronically over time, what begins to happen is they literally lay down against the side of the small intestine and quit pulling nutrients out. So we always have some, even if we die at 105 years old, and we've been dehydrated, we still have some, but toward the end of that life, that person may eat the best food on the planet, but they may not be able to really absorb those nutrients and get them out to the body because of the villi situation in the small intestine. Also, it would be damaging to that tender tissue in there and the little mucus lining that goes through the small intestine. But it's still pulling, the villi are pulling it out, sending it out into the bloodstream. It's hot though, it's kind of hot stuff, through the liver and kidney to be filtered. And I just can only imagine that if this happened chronically over time, that the liver and the kidney would be troubled with having to filter out this really acidic material. And that over time, it could literally damage the small intestine, I'm sorry, the liver and the kidney, and cause them not to work properly. And that's not good because we need them. And people complain about things like, I don't know, kidney stones. And I'm not saying that it's related, but it could be, because that would be something that might happen if the kidney was troubled. And the liver, we need our liver. It processes the fats in our body. And we need those fats for our brain. Our brain is made up a lot of fat and other things in our myelin sheath that goes around our nerve bundles. That's created out of fat. So we need, and hormones, hey, women, our hormones are created out of fat. So if our liver's not working properly and we aren't able to process fats correctly, our hormones may not be working correctly. You see, this has a compounding effect over time. So the food is going on down the small intestine. It's getting, particles are getting pulled out through the bloodstream, delivered. And now what's left, of course, the liver and kidney deposit their waste material into the colon. And some of it will go through the kidney into the bladder and out the urinary system, which wouldn't be very good for that system, would it? So now it's getting dumped into the large intestine. And in the large intestine, we have little friendly bacteria waiting to further break it down, but they don't do well with this acidic material. So over time, we may not get to keep the majority of our friendly bacteria, which are required for us to further break down our food. And you've heard those friendly bacteria called our second brain. You've heard them referred to as our second immune system. So they're kind of important and we've got to keep them healthy, but this hot material going into the large intestine isn't going to be real good for them. Again, there are villi in the large intestine pulling out material. Over time, they may not work well. And now the material that's left in the large intestine, again, the liver and kidney are dropping the waste material into the large intestine. But if it's not flushing properly, if there's not sufficient water for it to flush and get the feces out of that large intestine, and this waste material comes into the colon and the colon says, I can't get rid of this. It's going back into the bloodstream. So it goes back into the bloodstream, gets filtered again by the liver and kidney back into the colon. Nope, still not flushing. Okay, back into the bloodstream, back through the, see, this is not good. And so this, the feces not being able to get out, of course, we call constipation. So if the body can't get rid of this waste material, this is kind of gross, but it begins to form these pockets and shove that waste material, that solid waste material, into those pockets. And over time, it hardens. And do you all remember the John pictures of John Wayne in those Westerns? He had that big belly. Well, when they did the autopsy on John Wayne, they found that he had 75 pounds of solid waste material in his belly that the body had shoved into those pockets, and it had hardened. And so he had this huge belly that his body couldn't get that stuff out of there. So that's not healthy. That's just not a healthy thing. So you can see that we need this system to be working properly. It does need to flush properly. And so now what I'd like for us to look at, so we know now that we need to drink that water. In fact, let me just get a little water here, because talking about this makes me really thirsty. I don't know about you all. So let's talk about quality of water. Quality of water. It would be great if we lived near a spring and could get spring water into our homes, because spring water is loaded with the minerals that our body needs to be really healthy. Most of us don't live near a spring, so we have to get water that's brought in through the county, or we buy bottled water. I actually buy bottled water, and I'm very, very careful. I want you all to know, especially those of you who are careful about recycling, that I'm impeccable with my recycling, but I get my water from a place called El Dorado Springs in Colorado. It's if you go to their website, eldoradosprings.com, you'll learn about their water, and you can use that when you're out searching for spring water in your community as a go-by, what you're kind of looking for, because it'll have the mineral content, and it'll let you, you can look at it and do some comparing. But the El Dorado spring water is kind of fun because it was voted the best tasting water in the country and the second best tasting water in the world. So I feel very fortunate to live close by. And what makes it special is the water is run over thousands of feet of mineral rocks, and it picks up tiny particles of these minerals. So with every gulp that you get, you're getting minerals, real minerals, in the way that nature intended them. And the other water that I get is Waiakea from Hawaii. I just get a couple cases of this a month. It's more for entertainment, but it's an electrolyte water. It's it's run over lava, I think 5,000 feet of lava. And so it's rich in minerals as well. When Chris's little boys come over, I always say, what kind of water do you want, Colorado or Hawaii? And they go, Hawaii. So I have these little bottles that I have ready for them in the fridge, so they can have those anytime they want them. But quality of water is kind of important. So let me tell you where tap water comes from. This is rather unfortunate. From what I understand, every community gets to use water a number of times. Could be 10, could be 20. I don't know for sure. I've heard 20, but I won't swear to it. But the community they filter it, they send it out to people. It comes back as waste from the toilets and the sewage, and they clean it again and then send it back out, and then clean it again and send it back out, etc. And then once they've used it sufficiently, like 15 or 20 times, they send it to the next community. And then they start the process all over again. So people that are drinking tap water are not getting the best quality of water. And the worst part for me that I understand is that those systems cannot filter out everything. They can't filter out certain medications. They can't filter out estrogen, for example, from birth control pills. So the people drinking those waters get hit with these chemicals that they don't know what they're going to do to their body, and they're not getting the minerals. So, and I have friends that say, well, I have this kind of filter, or I have that kind of filter, or I have a whole house filter too, but I'm not drinking the water, but I am taking my shower and washing the dishes with it. And but just know that if you are using community tap water, that you may want to look. This is why I said you may want to go online to El Dorado Springs and see what a real water would look like. I mean, I've heard stories about this water that are rather mind-blowing. About, for example, one of the managers told me that he was delivering water to an elderly woman, and he carried it in for her because she was frail, and she had the 3.5 gallon jugs like I get. And he said, how's your cat? And she said, she's dying. And he said, well, what kind of water do you give her? And she said, she's a cat, she gets tap water. And he pulled his water out of his pocket and poured it into the woman said, the cat won't even drink, he won't eat, he won't drink water, he's done. And he pulled his bottle of water out and poured it into the cat's dish, and the cat came racing over, lapping up that water, and went on to live another year or two. So, I mean, I hear things like that, and I think, that's us. We need good water. We need good quality water. So, and then if you go to the grocery store and you think, well, I'm going to get spring water at the grocery store, awesome. The problem is that if you read the back of it, I forget the name of, Mountain Spring Water or something. I picked it up at the store and I looked at the back, and it literally said, literally, tap water processed and bottled by Nestle. So that's not spring water. And so I hope that you all will take the time to find a spring nearby, get that water delivered to you. It's so cheap. I mean, delivery of water is like, for the water that we get with the big jugs, it's like $30 a month. Anybody can do it. Do your research, find a good quality water that you can drink and get into your body. Your body needs it. The other thing that, let's see, I'm gonna check my notes here, make sure I didn't, okay, well, yes, okay. Also, if water doesn't taste good to you, I get it, but put strawberries in it, put lemon in it, lemon rind in it, put Young Living's Vitality Drops in it, put something in it that will make you drink it, because it won't, you can do that. Raspberries, some people put raspberries in their water and it just tastes delicious. So I do that sometimes just for entertainment value. And also, how long does it take to rehydrate the body once you start actually drinking your weight in ounces of water every day? Well, let me first preface that by saying, have you ever had a plant that was really dry and you poured water into it and it just went through it? And you thought, it didn't even soak it up. That's what the human body does if it's been dehydrated chronically over time. So it's going to take a while. It takes about 6 months of drinking a good quality water to rehydrate those systems. So for people that are having these digestive challenges, anywhere from the esophagus all the way to the colon, or to the in the colon, any troubles along that way with those organs or whatnot, they're going to need to be drinking water for a while in order to regain their health on this issue. And the other thing that's really important for them to use, and you may want to do this too, is oatmeal. And I learned about this many, many years ago, because oatmeal contains, and this is real oatmeal, old-fashioned oatmeal, the kind that, Quaker Oats, it's great. The Quaker Oats even has an organic old-fashioned oatmeal now. And you just take this water, I use my bottled water because this is going to be cooked into it. If I was cooking potatoes and pouring it off, I'd use tap water. But if I'm cooking something where the water is actually going into it, I'm going to use my good water. And so you use twice as much water as oats. You put salt in, and again, we're going to talk about that in a minute. And then you let it cook for 4 or 5 minutes, put a top on, set it off, let it get soft, and then you're ready to eat it. And what I do is I add a little bit of butter and milk because I like it kind of creamy. And then here's the secret, and I add good salt when I make it, and I'll talk about that. For the sweetener, I add pure maple syrup. And that to me is a mineral supplement. It's not a food, it's a mineral supplement. And I've been using pure maple syrup for 45 years. My kids never knew anything different. They didn't have any other options. And so pure maple syrup in there for the minerals and to make it sweet and delicious. So oatmeal has silica in it. It's loaded with silica, and silica restores the mucous linings of the body. So it would help make it healthy in the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine. It would help those organs become healthier and get them back to a more normal state because of the silica. And what about the salt? And now remember, we're kind of saltwater creatures. I didn't know that. Our water system is salt water. So we've got to have a good quality salt. And the kind that I use is called Redmond Real Salt. It's comes out of Redmond, Utah. I've actually been to their mine. I was curious driving to the convention one year, and I actually planned a trip and stopped in just to see it. And here's the thing about their salt. Utah at one point had an inland saltwater ocean. Now you hear about the Great Salt Lake. That's kind of the remnants of it. But it was a huge inland ocean, the saltwater ocean, and it dried up. And then what happens with geology is stuff is deposited on top. And so now in our time, they found underground this deep, rich salt mine that was pure and clean, that had never seen an environmental pollutant. And if you actually looked at this, what it has in it is tiny flakes. This was created during the Jurassic time period. And so as I look at these little flecks, I'm going, I wonder if that's a pterodactyl or a tropical plant. I don't know what we got in there, but it's kind of fun to think about. And I told the manager at one point, I said, if you had called it Jurassic salt, you'd have made $1 billion, but then it would all be gone and I wouldn't be able to buy it. So never mind. And so real salt is the only salt I've used with my family in 45 years. And then that with the El Dorado water. And then if you think about adding essential oils, now we have plant concentrates going into the body, you see. Remember that a drop of peppermint oil is equivalent to 28 cups of peppermint tea. So these are plant concentrates, and plants keep us really healthy. Our bodies need them. We need the nutrients. So in conclusion, if you want to be really healthy for the rest of your life, find an excellent quality water and get it. You're worth it. You're worth every penny that you're going to have to pay on it. Could be 40, it could be $100 a month. That's nothing compared to what you might have to pay for medical issues down the road. So drink plenty of water, half your weight in ounces of water. Oh, one of the things I wanted to tell you that I used to make mine kind of fun. Mine's icy. So what I do, again, I get these 24-ounce bottles so that I know at the end of the day I've drank 3 of them. It makes it really easy to keep track. And I drink some out of it and then throw them in the freezer. And then like about this time of day, I can take one out and it's still got some water in it, but it's also icy. And I hit it against the side of the kitchen, the granite, and break it up. And I've got ice water. And so that's kind of fun. So the good quality water, discover it, find it, and good quality salt, and then our essential oils. And I think, if you do those 3 things, and then for someone that's had some issues with their digestion or their colon, they're going to need to eat that oatmeal 1 meal a day for 6 months. I've had people that swore it wasn't going to work, but they tried it and it got their body back to normal again. So that's really worth the work. Just 1 of your meals a day out of your 3 meals in the day is oatmeal with the real maple syrup and the real salt in it. For the rest of us that aren't having those kind of issues, I try to have it, once a week as one of my meals or twice a week. And for me, it's almost more like a dessert. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I might have it for lunch, but it feels more like a dessert. Um, yeah, and then just eat plenty of nutritious fruits and veggies and get good proteins. And again, use lots and lots of essential oils, especially the raindrop oils. Um, Use any kind of oils you can. I mean, I went to put oils on to be on this call, and I couldn't stop putting them on. I put on the Valor, Harmony, Joy, and White Angelica. And I mentioned that kit at the beginning of this call. If you don't have it, you can't have a bad day when you use that kit. And it's now available in Young Living under collections. So you're looking for Gary's Happy Protocol, I think is what it's called. And when it comes, it's called Gary's Legacy. That's something that I can't live without. I want to have a happy day every day. And you just can't have a bad day if you're using those oils. And then, just whatever other oils you can get into your body on a daily basis. You're getting good plant chemistry in. It does great things in the body, does all sorts of things. We don't even have to know which molecule is doing what. We just need to get them in.